Hello everybody, it's the Terrell here from Terrell Game Vlogs. So, it is Valentine's Day, and this video will be primarily about that. But I know those probably want an update on how this has been going. Because, you know, I showed the book. I think that was the last, that may not have been the last video I uploaded, but it was one of the later videos I uploaded about studying for this. Well, just so happens I just got back from my first exam. And for those who don't know, the way these exams work is it's like 80 to 90 questions they present to you. You have an hour and a half to do them all. And you have to get a certain particular, you have to get higher than a particular score out of, in my case, it was like you had to get 675 out of 900. So what was my score, you may be asking? 588. So needless to say, you could argue and you can make the claim, and I wouldn't disagree. I wasted $100 because I didn't pass. Woo! I'm not gonna lie. I'd be lying to say I wasn't pretty bummed. All things considered, I'm not gonna go too into it because there's not really much to tell. Literally, I just drove back home from that, kind of talking to myself in the car. And then after this video, or probably as you're watching this video, I will be at the gym working out to kind of refocus my efforts. But all things considered, at least now I have a better idea of how these exams are going to go. It seems to be primarily focused on a lot of specific situational questions. Like Jenny has a issue with her printer. What is the best or the first or the optimal solution to whatever her problem is? That kind of shit. Which is a little different than what I was studying, because I was studying more like definitions and some of that, but it wasn't like, I didn't think that would make up so much of the test that it makes up. It makes up way more than you would think it does. It's like a good third or fourth. That test in particular felt like it made up like a good fifth of the fucking, not fifth, a good like 50%. I would say almost over half the questions I would argue are like a lot of those, which are like my worst subject, because it's not like I don't know how to fix the problem at all. Like, you present the problem to me, I'd probably be able to fix it, but the order in which they want you to fix it is what's killing me. But like I said, at least now I have a better idea how this is going to go. I'm going to go back probably in another 2 weeks, and now I'm going to study more situational questions to give me kind of an idea what to do instead of these specific ass, like the definitional stuff I'm pretty good on. It's primarily the fucking situationing ones. But anyways, this video isn't about that. This video is about Valentine's Day. I'm going to wander around. I'm going to do one of my patented wandering around the room things. So if you like that kind of randomness, you're in for a treat. Also, my door's open. Shut this bitch. No one's in the house anyway. It doesn't fucking matter. So Valentine's Day is here once again, and all you, and this is primarily for single people. I mean, people in couples could probably get something out of this, but it's primarily for the single guys here. Single guys and girls. So, a lot of people, let's be real here, no single person wants to hear advice from a person. Well, let me rephrase that. People don't believe in advice from people who aren't in like married themselves. Like, you're not married or you're not in a couple. It's like, I don't really think your opinion is valid because you're single. Da 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 da. Then you got the people who get mad at those people who are in couples or are married and shit, who talk to you because they're always trying to tell you this fake positive shit, and you don't want to hear any of that crap. You're married. I don't want to hear your bullshit. You're just trying to make me feel better. I don't give a damn. It just comes off condescending because you're over there with your fucking successful marriage or relationship. No one wants to hear that shit. And then you have the single person trying to tell you stuff. And it like, Valentine's Day is one of those days that no matter what happens, you're not, if you're single, you're not specifically trying to be single, it's not going to be the greatest thing in the world. It's going to be like at least somewhere between okay to severely mediocre, and for some people just absolutely terrible. And I was thinking about it, and I was like, particularly because of my video on my main channel, the crying and eating pizza thing, is starting to recirculate again, because that's pretty much become an inadvertent Valentine's Day video without actually being a Valentine's Day video. I've kind of come to the conclusion that I feel like most people need to kind of recognize, if nothing else, that there is a high possibility that you will quote unquote die alone. Now, when I say die alone, I don't mean that like you will never have anybody with you. I mean like there's a high possibility that you won't find your one true love or your like significant other. Like, and that's not me being a dick. That's me being realistic. I feel like people, one of the things I hate about people who are in relationships or people trying to give you advice always goes, there's someone out there for everybody. That's not 100% true. And if it is true, you don't know that person is the same age as me, the right gender, or dead. There's too much. It's just like how people say, oh, you only have one true love. And then you ask the people who are in multiple marriages and you're like, oh no, those first two husbands weren't her one true love. Or one true love was the third husband. You mean the one that died of cancer? Yeah, exactly. That's totally what happened. There's too many fucking variables in life for me to believe all this like one true love, this specific situation. Realistically, if I live in Georgia and you live in California, the only way we're gonna fucking meet is online, right? Maybe. And that's still a maybe. Or, and because if we played the one true love card, well, why does my one true love only have to be in America? It could totally be in fucking Japan or Brazil or India. Doesn't fucking matter. You won't ever know until you meet the individual. And the other kicker that people need to understand is that because of that fact, because of the reality, I don't think that's the case. I think a lot of people's relationships is based on the area they live in. Why are there so many couples who met in the same state? I don't know why. It's because they grew up in a very similar environment to each other. That's not always the case, but there are people who've grown in the similar environments to each other. They're raised in and it's like I think I've said it before in other videos. The more weird and complex of an individual you are, the harder it is to find someone. And that's not me talking down to people who are in relationships saying they're basic as fuck. I'm saying those people have a lot more in common with their significant other because maybe they were raised in a similar area or they have very similar sensibilities. There's not too much to those kind of people. But if you're weird, and I mean like weird, and you're into shit that's all across the fucking pasture and things that, and not every, and like I said, in relationships, you don't have to connect with everything, but like, if you're out there, it's harder for those kind of people to find people who are into them. Because you have to be insanely weird yourself just to even qualify, and then even then, you're weird and her weird may not even match up, or his weird and his weird, whatever the fuck. And so I think for me personally, I came to the realization, probably I would say within the last few years, that there's a high possibility that I will never particularly find anyone for me. That is my general mindset. Now granted, and people need not to get this twisted, that does not mean I have given up on looking. That just means that if it don't happen, I'm not going to be over here devastated. I'm not going to be over here crying in a river because I could never find a girlfriend and I'm in my 40s, right? And like, and that's the other kicker. Women specifically are usually looking harder than men are in terms of relationships because, see, women have more of a clock than men do, in the sense that women don't age as aggressively as men, and it's not really the woman's specific fault. That's just how life is. The way a woman's body is set up, it just doesn't. The attractiveness wears out way quicker than you would think. And then for girls who pop up quick in puberty, your clock ticks even. It's just an interesting setup, right? So I mean, it's rough, but like for me personally, it's like life. I think, and look. Here's the thing. I have no issue in finding a girl I'm interested in. My thing is, I think a lot of people get so hung up on that reality and that needs to happen. And people always try to give you these different tricks and tips about what you can do to make yourself more available or what you can do to achieve that goal. But I feel like there's not enough conversation about, is that goal really necessary? And once again, that kind of depends on the kind of sensibilities you have as a person. A lot of people just want to get married for the companionship. A lot of people get married for the having children and raising a future generation. There are different reasons why people get together and stay together. For me, it primarily just be companionship anyway. But without that being a thing, I can easily recognize that I will still have friends. I'll still have acquaintances. I'll still have people around me. It's not like without the significant. Literally, I think the only difference between like a best friend and a girlfriend or a best friend and a boyfriend is that you have sex or like sexual tension between your girlfriend slash boyfriend versus your best friend. Because like you always hear people say, "Oh, my wife is like my best friend that I fuck." That's literally it. I mean, that's the core of it all. Is that your main attraction is that and because your best friend has every other feature, the whole someone you can be insanely personal about. You guys don't really have any secrets with each other, and you most of the time if you live in the same area, you probably hang out a lot, right? When you're married, the only thing that changes is that a lot turns into all the time, or like 90% of the time, and you guys have sexual tension between each other. And depending on how old you are, that's even irrelevant. So, for me, I just think single people, sometimes you don't need to sweat it. I mean, as far as that whole work on yourself and people will come to you shit, that's debatable. I think almost any tip and trick you learn could technically be used. It just kind of depends on the situation. That's probably the reason why people look so into dating tips and tricks and shit, because almost every one of them is viable. It just depends to what degree is it viable, and in some cases it's more viable than others. But for me, I realize I'm about 50-50 right now. I'm trying to maintain the balance of, if something comes, cool. If something doesn't come, that's fine too. And honestly, depending on the day and depending on my mood and depending on who I'm looking at, that bar sometimes gears one or the other way, and that's just the daily weakness. I would just say people don't need to insanely worried about or freak out about having that significant other, because life, at the end of the day, when you die, they're gonna put you in the ground. They're not gonna put your boyfriend or your husband in the ground or your wife. If you die first, they're gonna put you in the ground. And I think a lot of us just spend too much fucking time worrying about it. I feel like there's a lot of time wasted with us overly concerning ourselves with if Kayla or Jonathan are gonna come over there and talk to me, or I'm gonna go over there and talk to them, and we could possibly make babies or some shit, like, right? I think that's becoming a little bit of too much of an obsession, and I honestly think that for some people it just won't happen. Because if we go by the bullshit ass rules that society keeps telling us, that oh, you have your one true love, and oh, you'll meet them when fate or God or whatever divine force intervenes, and I'm like, well, that's the case. I don't need to overly concern myself about it, right? No, of course not. But like I said, if you're a person who's interested in having a significant other, don't stop looking. Just don't obsess over it. And like I said, this is harder to do depending on your situation and depending on certain days. Some days are just rough. Some days, like Valentine's Day, you get on Twitter or Facebook or YouTube or go to work, and everybody's talking about their significant other, or they're getting flowers to work from their significant other. They're going out to lunch with their boyfriend or girlfriend. It's the same back and forth shit. And single people become way more negative and obsessive on these days sometimes too, because it's like, fuck, you see all this shit around you and you're sitting over there by yourself in this little hut like, man, this is some bull. And there's nothing wrong with feeling bad about it sometimes. Just don't obsess over it. Some days are just going to be shitty, and some days will be fucking amazing. Just don't let don't let it consume you, because you'll ruin way more than you'll ruin more of yourself than you want to. And most people don't want to ruin themselves at all, but shit happens. So that's kind of just my Valentine's Day gist. I think people should have a half expectation that this shit could potentially just end in you dying alone. And there's nothing horrible about that, because you're gonna die alone regardless. You might die in the arms of your lover, but at the end of the day, one of you is dead. Or if you're gonna do some Romeo and Juliet type shit, cool. You're both still dead. You're both, like, when you die, it's not like you're gonna be connected spiritually to. Well, I guess that's debatable because we don't know. I wouldn't assume that personally, but hey, look, everyone has their own thing. That's just the way I look at it. I half expect myself to find someone, and I half expect myself not to. And some days that expectation will go into a 60-40 or a 70-30. Valentine's Day, usually it dips to about a 60-40 because the saltiness is real. I'm happy for you, and make that my saltiness is just going to exist sometimes. But like I said, I'm doing other things like failing certification exams. In retrospect, I did not realize I had scheduled that shit on Valentine's Day because I was not thinking about Valentine's Day at all, and then for that to happen right as, and I come back and I'm like, man. But like I said, sometimes you gotta take these L's and just move the fuck on. Shit, sometimes you will just get fucked. In life, love, whatever, you'll get fucked. The goal is just not to let it destroy you or take you down. So that's my spiel. So I'm gonna upload this, and as you guys are watching this, probably if you're watching it as soon as it's uploaded, I will probably be at the gym and then going to like somewhere to eat lunch afterwards because I had the whole day off. I took the day off to go take this dumbass exam. I studied this morning. See where that got me. Yeah, see, yeah, I'm like a 60. I'm at like a 60-40 situation. So I'm like 60 negative, maybe 65% negative, 40 to 35% positive. Some days you're going to be salty, but tomorrow you just brush it off and keep moving forward, which hopefully the gym will help me move forward because I don't feel like terrible, just salty. So anyways, thank you guys for listening. This has been the Vlogs again from your boy Terrell, and I will catch you guys later. Peace. Oh, later days.